don't know if you've noticed, but the world is kind of on fire again. Also, a bird shat in my hair this morning, and then I spilt milk all over the kitchen. I was shaking it and the lid wasn't on properly. Look, it doesn't matter, but mama needs to de-stress. I want to get cozy, even though it's super hot. I want to knit my first sweater. I've done a little bit of knitting before. I don't count that sweater as my first sweater. That was a complete mess. I think this will also be my first time following like a real complex knitting pattern, because the only pattern that I really followed for that was the ski mask. And that was more of a recipe than a pattern. It was written like a conversation, which is much more my speed. So I'm a little bit intimidated by that, but I am excited. Let me show you my yarn stash. So in here is all yarns. They're pretty much all thrifted except for these black ones here, which I bought to do a sweater, but I'm currently knitting a scarf with. These are all different colors because I got them from an op shop. This one can stay out. All right, never mind. And this is also my yarn stash. These are my darning projects. I need to fix these ones. Scraps. Oh, pretty colors, but also scraps, and also lots of random little hand-spun ones that, again, different colors. And then these ones. The majority of these are all secondhand. I got them on Facebook Marketplace, op shops. Basically, they're all different colors and sizes, which is a real problem when you look at knitting patterns. The ones that I have enough of are... I have enough of these to make 2 sweaters, I think. Oh my God, there's more in here. These ones are so cute. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with all these, but I don't know. I think maybe just a bunch of socks. Someone suggested cursed socks. I don't know what that would look like. These are our yarns. I will explain why these are our yarns. I don't need to say yarn so many times, do I? This yarn here is the Bendigo Wool Mills Alpaca Rich. It's 60% alpaca, 40% wool, and it has been discontinued. So I got this one on Facebook Marketplace for super cheap because it was like 3.5 balls. If I do yarn held together, this works out to be enough meterage to make the pattern that I want to make. I have a ton of this gorgeous cream hand-spun alpaca. It goes from thick to thin, sort of, like it's not a consistent gauge, which means it's not going to be exact, but I really like how that looks, and I bought a ton of this. I made some swatches, I blocked them, can you believe it? I did this properly. Not properly, look, I know that these aren't 10 by 10, I'm not doing that. It's too much yarn. I've basically made my decision based on how it feels as a fabric. This one is out of the running immediately because I have 1 ball of the compatible cashmere from Knitting for Olive. I don't want to buy that because it's so expensive. So that one's out. I should have thought of that before I blocked it. So I ended up with these 2. Don't panic about the color, we're gonna deal with it. Both of these 2 held together on 5.5mm needles, and it's just a little too dense and thick. It doesn't have enough give. Whereas this one is really quite soft and I think would make a really cozy sweater. This is on the 6mm needles, and I have achieved a gauge, which is not gauge for the Ozetta Winters pullover. But I really, really want to do this jumper. This is the first one that I picked out. This was like, I'm gonna do that one, and then I realized I might not get gauge. So I did all of these swatches and I landed back on the Winters one. I was able to get 13.3 stitches per 10 centimeters after blocking, and I put it into this handy dandy little converter. So I have a 34-inch chest, and to do this, I just need to size down to a 30-inch chest, and it should knit up the right size. So I bought the Landscapes Dye for Wool Smoke Color because I assumed I would want to dye something light gray at some point, and I was right. But yeah, we're going to dye this a nice gray so that we can hold it together with these and just make a gray jumper, kind of like the original, maybe. But, this is very exciting. You know what we need to do to these before we can dye them? I have learnt. We need to turn them into hanks. I thought about, for about 6 months, buying a yarn swift and ball winder, and then I did it. And do you know what I did with it? Ooh, very nice. I burped. That was 6 months ago. It's still in the box. This bit feels important. So yeah, that's where we're at. Didn't unwrap it, but I did get it for very cheap. Pretty sure they put the price up in error because it was the same price as just a Swift. I could also get a ball winder, and I was like, okay. That seems like it's for the ball winder. We'll use that afterwards once they're in hanks. Oh gosh, I'm so excited to finally use this. Man, I hope there's instructions in here. I'll set this up and I'll see you in a second. Oh no. I looked up how to assemble Phoenix Swift, and apparently that's a type of bike. Phoenix Yarn Swift? Oh, it says it's a 2-part. It only has 2 parts, that's why there's no instructions. Haha, yeah. Yeah, that's it. And then I just attach it to my table. We can figure that out later. I did it, and I probably should have weighed these first. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. So we have 718 grams of the grey one. I figured we'd need a bit more of the cream yarn. As it's a bit thicker, I can assume the same weight is shorter. 710, oh my gosh, I was so close. All right, let's grab a little bit more of this. So I'm just gonna get the rest of these wound on the Swift, and then we can get to dyeing. Very exciting, but it's very warm. I'm gonna complain about that a lot. Next time you see these balls of yarn, they're gonna look like this. Let's go. This yarn is hand spun, not by me. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace from a lovely woman who was selling her collection. She made all of the hand spun yarn that I have, and for the yarns she dyed, she used natural methods, leaving the yarns in jars of water in her backyard with plants and metals and stuff in there. It's very cool, and I have to be very careful or spinning is going to enter the arena. I hear it's a good way to use up scraps, and it's not even that big of an investment because you can start with just a drop spindle. I've already decided that I'm gonna do it, haven't I? I can hear it in my voice. Surely I don't need this, plus all of that. Those two combined is like 1500 grams of yarn, and the pattern only calls for 750. I don't think I need double. It feels like too much, but I'm gonna dye this, and I don't know, look, I guess if we have leftovers, we make a matching hat. Socks perhaps. This is how I learned not to tie the hanks too tight. I retied them a bit looser and put them back on the stove. So I know that I'm not the best with colours, but this is grey, this is grey, this is purple. Purple is not my colour. I do not wear purple. Oh dear, that's a lot of yarn that's purple. Look, okay, so I don't know if maybe it was a blue-based grey, because like I thought it was a grey. This is the colour. I thought that was a grey, maybe like a slightly purple grey. Some of the yarns have just gone white, which is what happens when you add purple to cream. I spent like a good week scrolling through Pinterest and Instagram trying to find examples of a sweater or just swatches of yarn that had been knitted together that were grey and cream, like this. And I didn't find any. And this morning, I found this jumper and I was like, actually, not bad. And really, is that not my color? It goes well with my light colored jeans, I think. So I decided to knit up a swatch of the grey and purple yarn just to confirm that I didn't want to use it. So I started winding a hank into a ball. That's looking like a problem. This is fun. Okay, I don't need to knit any more than this. I can tell you, I hate this. The grey makes this purple just look even more purple. And it's just not my color. We're gonna do this one. This is honestly quite nice. Let's take a look at our pattern. This whole time I've just been trying to log into my Outlook. We have our pattern. Okay. By the way, this door for this cupboard is open because the skink. Did I tell you about the skink? There's a skink in my room and I don't know if it's left yet, but it went into the cupboard, into like where the rollers are, and I want it to escape, so we're just leaving this open for a little bit. Anyway, just before I cast on, I did want to confirm that I'm right about the sizings. This is my favorite sweater here. This is a men's sweater. The bust circumference is about 46 inches, which matches the measurements for the size 1. So I guess it'll be a little bit bigger than this. At least I don't really know. I don't know how it's gonna work. But yeah, we will cast on at a size 1. I think it will be somewhere between a size 1 and a size 2 when we finish this up. Maybe. Okay, number 1, it's gotten very warm today. I've had some lunch. I've caffeinated because you will shape the back of the pullover by using German short rows. So we're starting right out the gate with German short rows, which I don't have a great history with. So loosely cast on 86 stitches. I'm not gonna show you the pattern or do this all word for word because obviously this is a proprietary pattern. This is someone's livelihood. But I'm gonna do my best to explain why I don't understand it. How much am I gonna need to do long tail cast on for 86 stitches? I need stitch markers as well.
I got some super helpful comments on my last knitting video. A couple of people said when casting on a lot of stitches, use a stitch marker every 20 stitches so you don't need to recount them and lose track. That has been a game changer. Anyway, after casting on, the pattern says to break the yarn, and this idea was terrifying to me.
Right. I'm so scared. All right, we've got plenty of yarn. I'm sure we have enough yarn. So I'm gonna break it. I'm gonna do there, 7.
First, we had to slip 30 stitches onto the right needle.
Considering how much of a challenge this is already, I feel like we're gonna go on quite a journey together with this sweater.
There's a lot of staring at instructions like this. Next, we'll join a new yarn and purl across to make the back of the neck.
I guess I'm doing it. Double stitch.
But then I had to figure out how to do German short rows using a double stitch, which I hadn't done before.
Slip the first stitch. Which one counts as the first stitch? Which direction are we going in? What does that mean? I don't understand.
The pattern links a tutorial for the double stitch method, and if you look very closely, you can see the moment that it clicks for me.
I've never seen that method before. All right.
Okay, so at some point vlogging me explained what I'm doing here, but she took way too long, so I'll just do it.
This is our double stitch.
Basically, I've been doing double stitches all the time by accident. After you turn your work, you pull the yarn over so that the bottom of the stitch is up on the needle and it looks kind of like 2 stitches. And then you knit or purl back along until you get to the previous double stitch you did, knit or purl those together, and then do another 2 stitches. Then you flip it and go back again, over and over again, until there are only 2 unworked stitches on either side. I think this method looks neater than the wrap and turn method that I've previously tried, but mostly because the double stitch is easier to see and make sure I resolve it, so I didn't get any holes this time.
Haha, it's very hard to show you. It wants to curl up on itself. We've made it to the last of the German short rows. This method that I have learnt from the Pearl Soho video that is linked in the pattern, I will link it as well. Super simple, I definitely prefer this, and it feels like this is a lot neater as well. I'm a little concerned about how quickly I'm getting through the yarn, but we're just not gonna worry about that because there's nothing I can do about it. Let's just hope it's not a problem for future me. One thing that may be a problem, I keep forgetting while I am knitting up to a size 1, like we're following the instructions for a size 1, the schematics are gonna be closer to a size 2. And I say closer because we've already overshot the mark. This is supposed to be 5.5 inches from cast on edge to where we are now, and we are at 6 inches. Yeah, so this is hitting more like a size 3. So, oh well. Let's take a look at my stitch gauge while we're at it. 12, 13, 14. So originally when I did this, it was 15. Well, does this help? Does this look like it's gonna be a sweater? It's gonna be a sweater. Whether it fits is going to be another thing entirely.
So I'm never sure how much personal stuff to share here, but I thought I would explain why this video took so long to get out. We had a pretty hard January on top of everything going on in the world. We took Alf to a new vet for a second opinion on his arthritis that had gotten really bad, and they told us we'd have to start thinking about his quality of life, which is not something we were prepared to hear. We had a few rocky weeks where he responded really badly to some pain meds, but he is now on a full pain package including laser therapy, hydrotherapy, and CBD oil. We also took apart our bed frame so he doesn't have to jump onto the bed anymore, and he's doing so much better. He's having cooked chicken every day, he's playing again and running. We know we won't have him forever, but gosh darn it, he is gonna have the best and comfiest retirement ever. And if anyone comments that he's just a dog and it's not worth it, they will be banned from this channel immediately.
Update time. So, it's pretty big. This is 50 inches across here, so it's currently the same size as this before blocking. I want to see where it goes. I think, look, you learn more from your mistakes than when things just go right. So I want to see if I can kind of adjust this as I go. Oh, and so this is all of the cream yarn that we have. Here is the thing. This is the regular yarn that we're using. And I also have 2 balls of this one, which as you can see are the same color but different textures. On the assumption that I will need to use all of it, I'm gonna start bringing this one in just for like 2 or 3 rows and then swapping back to one of the regular ones just to blend it in more easily so we don't just have like one section of my arm that's just like super fuzzy. Can always frog it at the end.
So once the back shaping was complete, I was supposed to continue in stocking net for 42 rows until the back reached 13 inches. Let me tell you, my row gauge is off because I got to 13 inches way before 42 rows. Then I moved that section onto a spare cable so I could pick up the 30 stitches here along the shoulder and start the front. Picking up stitches, like a lot of the individual processes that make up this sweater construction, is actually much simpler than I thought it would be. I still managed to get it wrong though. It's just through the V of the stitch, wrap the needle and bring it back up. But I was inconsistent with how I wrapped it and twisted a lot of the stitches and had to fix fix them when I went back and purled all of them. But I have enough knitting experience now to know when it looks wrong, so that's exciting. For this step, I just had to purl and knit back and forth for 7 rows until it reaches 1¼ inches. But I got there in 5 rows, and I need to go by measurements, not row count. Okay, so this is gonna be the neckline. Oh, it doesn't have a measurement. It's only in rows. So it was time for some terrible posture thinking time. All right, I have done some math, and I think I have figured this out. I don't know if I figured out how to explain it yet. I have a bit of a headache today. So basically, this wants me to do 24 rows. I looked up what the row gauge was, and it says 23 rows is 10 centimeters. So it wants me to do about 10 centimeters of stitches with 6 increases in it because it's 24 rows repeating the 4 rows, 6 fours are 24. I get about 18 to 19 rows for 10 centimeters. So that means all I have to do is do the increase every 3 rows. Which is a problem because that means one of them is happening on a purl row. Can you increase make one right on a purl row? We're gonna figure it out. We're just gonna go for it. It's like I'm incapable of just making things easy for myself. Could have just bought some yarn and then it would have matched the gauge and then I wouldn't have had to do all of this. I was able to find tutorials for the make one right/left by Nimble Needles. Thank you very much for your service, sir. Absolute lifesaver. Those are linked in the description if anyone wants them, because of course when I actually did it, my hands weren't in the shot. So helpful. Well, here is the increase on the knit side in any case. As you can see, I'm not struggling at all. So I am very much oscillating between what was I thinking, why did I do this, do things the simple way for once, and surely I am learning so much more by having to really think through how I'm doing this, right? So anyway, I have completed the neck shaping for the front left side, I want to say. I think my calculations were correct. That first section was supposed to be 1¼ inches, and so if I move my measuring tape down, then it was meant to be around about another 10 centimeters of stitches, and that's where we're at. With that pretty much working, I'm just gonna mirror it for the other side, following my stitches, and we'll do make one right instead of make one left. Join it up in the middle with a backwards loop cast on, which I will have to Google what that is, and then we'll be able to knit down the front of the sweater, and that has a measurement, so then we should be able to join it up under the arms. I think it's working. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye. This is another helpful one from Nimble Needles. I have to leave the left side while I knit the right one, and rather than leaving on scrap yarn, I'm using some armature wire, so it's way easier to pick up the stitches again later and they won't be all weird and twisted. So I picked up the stitches on the other side, really tried to keep the wrapping consistent this time, then just went back and forth, knitting and purling, but making one right this time instead. I think I needed to watch the tutorial every single time I did the increase. Good morning. So, do I need to do a good morning? Because I've already shown you me knitting this morning. Do you know what? Let's just have a look at the jumper. This is where we're at. I have this side, I'm pretty sure matching this side. So now, this time we have our yarn somewhere over here. It's time to knit across here, cast on some stitches in between, and then go along there. And then I just need to knit down to about 14 inches, although I don't know where I measure that from. But basically get these ones to match-ish, and then join it up. It's looking like the top of the jumper. It's very exciting, and fingers crossed, we might actually be doing okay at yarn chicken. So this is our first ball that we were using, and it was only about 130 grams, like when a normal ball is 200, and that has gotten us this far. And we got these 2 here, then we still have those ones in the bag, and those 3 balls untouched. I'm feeling pretty confident about it. I'm gonna get started with that. We're making progress. Yes. Once I knit that across, I did the backwards loop cast on, which feels so wrong. It barely feels like a cast on. I just hit the keyboard. I tried so hard to make sure it wasn't twisted, but I'm pretty sure it still was because I ended up with a hole there when I went back across to knit it. But I figured I could hide that when I pick up stitches for the turtleneck part. Now that the front was joined up, I plonked myself on the couch in my first pair of real Ugg boots. Can you believe it? I can't afford them. My brother got them for me for Christmas. Isn't that so sweet? They are so warm and cozy that honestly sometimes I have to take them off because I'm too warm. What was I saying? Oh, and I just knit back and forth in stocking knit until the front reached 14 inches. Really good progress. And you know what? Let's try it on. I'm gonna muffle my mic. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Oh God, it's so warm. It's so warm. It's a very warm evening. It's going to be, I think it's 38 degrees tomorrow. So it's perfect sweater weather. Oversized is cool, it's fine. Yeah, what do I do here to join it?
I do believe that once the sweater gets like complete and then you do the sleeves, it can be kind of annoying to maneuver. So what I'll probably do is join it up, knit for a couple of inches, and then I might get started on the sleeves before I do the complete body, because I do want to make sure I have enough yarn for both of the sleeves, and I can crop it. I can always crop the sweater a little bit rather than ending up with a long sweater with short sleeves. But yeah, this is lovely. I wanted a cozy time and I'm having a cozy time. I've nearly finished all 3 seasons of Sanditon. What am I gonna watch when I'm finished? Also, has anyone watched Sanditon and can just like gossip about it in the comments? Because like, oh, after season 1, the heartbreak, it took me a while to like recalibrate, and I'm still not quite there yet in terms of caring about the characters like I did in season 1.
The next day was Saturday, so it was a full day on the couch knitting the body of the sweater. I couldn't be bothered getting up to film the join part, I'm sorry. Then it was an evening on the couch. I'm not sure what we're celebrating here, but I'm glad we're having a good time. Also, fun fact about Alf, he's really unsettled unless someone has their foot on him. He needs constant contact to fall asleep. It is so adorable. Oh my gosh, I am so glad I got footage of this. We have a crow, or crows, question mark, who bring their own bread to our bird baths so they can dunk it in the water and eat it. Where did they get the bread from? This has happened multiple times. We have a bakery not too far from us, so maybe they are throwing stale bread out the back and this bird is taking it. It's so smart, I love it. Look, here it is on a different day. Same bird or different, can't tell. Hello, good morning. This is actually, honestly, this is very cozy. This is very nice. It is even bigger than that in terms of where the drop shoulders are gonna be. I think it's a look. So I've transferred this edge onto my largest cable and my largest tips so that hopefully it won't unravel while I get started on the sleeves. So I think I really should measure up what length I want the sleeves to be. I don't wanna do maths, but I'm gonna have to do some maths. So I've done the math and it looks like I am doing about 17% less stitches than what the pattern recommends for a 10 centimeter space. So we're supposed to do 10 rows, then a decrease, then 5 rows and a decrease. So I'm gonna do 8 rows and a decrease, 4 rows and a decrease, and fingers crossed we end up at about the right size and the right length. I do want to get started on that, but I'm gonna go to lunch and then I will do our stitches. Okay. Bye. My friend and I were meeting up for lunch at a Korean restaurant called Dodan in Brunswick. Definitely worth checking out if you're in Melbourne and can get to Brunswick. Is it good?
It's so good.
This is the bulgogi beef lunch set and it's fantastic. I didn't need dinner.
Hello, I am back from lunch. So I've had a look at all of my cables and I seem to be missing the only size that I need to be able to do this armhole. So the pattern says to use 16 inches and I assume that by 16 inches they mean 8 inches of needles and 8 inches of cable. Anything bigger than this would be too small for the cuff. Look how big this is. And if this is the cable, I'm not showing you this very well, but like it doesn't seem big enough.
So using our 17% less stitches math, when the pattern says to pick up 80 stitches for the sleeve, I figured I needed to pick up 66. The pattern said to aim for picking up 2 stitches for every 3 rows, and that's about what I did, and I ended up with 64 stitches. It was looking a little tight on the cable, but I knit up to my first decreasing row.
Here's the thing. I did all this math and worked out what reductions I would need to do because we ended up with 64 stitches here, and I measured my gauge and it was like, okay, in order to get the 14 inches around the cuff, it would need to be 50 stitches. And then the pattern says you should have 52 stitches at the end. If I'm starting with 64 and the pattern is starting with 80, and then they say 52 and I say 50, my gauge has changed. It's not looking right. It'll stretch out a little bit, you know, when I actually block it, and I can see that it is pulling too tight. So I'm gonna undo this. I'm gonna cast on 80. We're gonna try again. It's good. It's good. We're learning so much. Hopefully transferable skills, but also hopefully with my next sweater, it's not this much work because I'll just get gauge at the start.
Funnily enough, it actually was a good thing that I had to unravel that sleeve. The first time I'd struggled picking up the stitches evenly and the seam edge wasn't exactly straight. It was much neater the second time and was probably one of those things that would have bothered me later.
Okay, that time I fit 80 on. I'm gonna try and knit a whole sleeve today. Like I am just going to lock in. This is tight. This is very complex to do, and I saw this awesome thing where it was like you put it inside out when you're doing this kind of thing. So if I flip it around and then knit like this, oh, I have to pull my yarn through. Oh no, look at it. It's a big spaghetti mess. Oh no. Get out of it. What was I saying? I have
fancy needles. These are 8cm, 6mm needles. And then I also got the Twist Shorty combo. I don't think I'll need to go this small for this jumper because the cuff is only 14 inches, but look at how tiny they are. These are the 5mm for doing the actual cuff part. These little tiny cables, if I need to use them, these are smalls. I have the connectors to attach small cables to large needles. So everything is fairly interchangeable. I don't know, I'm buying them one by one rather than sinking like $300 at once. But at this stage, I've probably spent almost that on the amount of cables and needles that I have. Anyway, it doesn't matter because this isn't a hobby that's going anywhere. I'm having a great time. I'm probably gonna be knitting for the rest of my life, to be honest. I just think it's so cool. I'm 35 and I recently found this hobby that I absolutely love. And it's just like, wonders never cease. There are still things you haven't found yet that you might like absolutely love. So keep trying new things is my advice that no one asked for. That's my unsolicited advice while I really should be knitting these sleeves instead of talking. Speaking of things I'm supposed to be doing, I completely forgot. I am meant to remind you to like the video if you're enjoying it and subscribe if you haven't. It really helps the channel and I appreciate you so much.
These are our new memory foam rugs. They're super soft and squishy because Alf refuses to sleep on his bed. So now the whole floor is a bed. Good morning. So it was a little bit ambitious of me to declare that I was going to finish a sleeve yesterday. So we've made it this far, but very excitingly, that means that we are close to done, I guess. We have 4 more decreases to do, and then we do the cuff, and then that sleeve is done. So the cuff is, I think, 4 inches of 1x1 ribbing. I will check that. I'm just going to once again, lock in, try and hunker down and ignore all the chores around the house that need to be done because I do get distracted with that being like, oh, well, yesterday it was 43 degrees. So we did a bunch of washing because it would dry really quickly. And so all of that needs to be put away and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not doing it because we're focusing on getting this done. Priorities. All right, I'll check in with you when I am at the cuff. I have done the required amount of reductions, so we're now at 50 stitches. We were at 53 at one point, which makes me think that actually I'd picked up 81 instead of 80 originally. The other thing that's correct, but maybe not correct, this length is now from the underarm 14 inches, which is what it's supposed to be with the final schematic because we have 4 inches of cuff. But also, I realized this just before I got to this part, that end schematic is probably after blocking. I am now going to switch this over to the 5mm needle, so we're going down a size, and then do a 1x1 rib for 4 inches.
I also switched to my smaller cable for the cuff and changed to the floofy cream yarn a bit before the cuff because I didn't want to be switching yarns and weaving in ends in the cuff if I could avoid it. Plus the floofy yarn I used was the finest of the cream ones, so the cuff would be really soft and also hopefully a bit tighter because I find it annoying if my cuff is super loose and I can't push my sleeves up. The pattern says to do the sewn tubular bind-off or your favourite stretchy bind-off. My favourite was the Italian bind-off, which I think is super similar to this. I kept confusing them, but the sewn tubular bind-off is my new favourite. I love how it looks and it retains the stretch of the 1x1 rib. I also find this one easier to get the tension right. When I've done Italian bind-off before, I seem to either get like a lettuce edge or very little stretch. I did struggle to remember what I was doing though, so I had to have the tutorial out the whole time. I have a sleeve! Doesn't it look good? Kinda looks like how you would draw a sweater. I'm so happy. Yes, it is already very oversized. My ideal sleeve would be a little bit longer than this, so let's hope that all the blocking does is relax the fibers a little bit so that it sinks into itself and hopefully gets a little less scratchy. I think that might be an alpaca thing. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit itchy in this. So I am going to have a brain fart. What am I gonna do? Oh yes, I'm gonna knit the other sleeve. And it's going to be pretty much exactly the same process. It's gonna be exactly the same process as the other one. Fingers crossed they match. I'm gonna do that and I will see you when we have sleeve number 2. Ah! 2 sleeves. I think I nearly tripped. Look at that. They look the same. Basically, I just did the same thing as the previous sleeve, but this time I remembered to use my stitch markers so that I wouldn't have to try and recount all of those really cramped up little stitches and get it wrong. So that was good. So I finished the sleeve first thing this morning before I was in any sort of state to be filming. So I did also weave in all of the ends so far. There are way more than there should be because of all of the swapping between the hand spun yarns, but I think it's coming out fairly even-ish. I mean, you can't tell. You can't tell where it swaps to a finer yarn, so all good. I'm feeling very cozy and happy with this. So next up, we are going to do the collar. The pattern says to finish, I mean, I'm doing this all out of order. The pattern wanted me to finish the body first, then do the sleeves, but I didn't know how much yarn we would have. Speaking of, here's how much yarn we have. What was I worried about? I have so much yarn, so I'm very happy with that. We are not playing yarn chicken. We're good. Okay, let's start picking up stitches for this collar. For a bit of fun, here is me trying to figure out how to take the sweater off without pulling out the needles and unraveling any of the stitches at the hem. For the collar, the pattern said to pick up 90 stitches. It was supposed to be matching what was cast on for the front and back, and then like 3 out of every 4 down the sides. My cream yarn had gotten really thick by this stage, so I picked up 82 stitches total. I managed to get 19 on both the sides by guessing, which was amazing, but somehow ended up with more stitches than I had cast on at the front, which is very weird because I was picking up stitches inside the V of the stitch, so that doesn't seem possible. How do I stop it from doing this when I'm doing 2 yarns together? Anyone? Please explain. How do I avoid this tangling where it just wraps around each other? Experienced knitters, I would love to know. I tried it on to make sure I was happy with how the neck was sitting, and actually it is super cute like this. Now I really want to do a sweater that has like maybe a mock neck or that like double folded sewn bind off. Maybe I'll do it in like maroon. I think that would be really cute. I'm totally gonna just cast on another sweater after this. Or maybe a hat. Don't get me started, I also bought sock yarn. Let's not talk about it. Yeah, so basically I just kept going and knitting up the turtleneck until it was time to cast off. Look at that! It's a turtleneck! In focus? Is it in focus, turtleneck? Look at this, looking like a sweater. Turtleneck went really well, except for, I feel so silly about this. I had this one little strand that had some pink in it. Right? It's actually really pretty. But I was like, oh, that's gonna look weird in the jumper. Like that's gonna look like a stain. So I snipped it out and then realized that I'd cut it in the turtleneck right where it folds down. So like I have to really subtly weave that in now, which is way worse than if I just left a tiny bit of pink in there. So lesson learned, don't do that again. So yeah, next is just continuing knitting the body. Body, I did not mean to say it like that. Once I was happy with the length of the body, I knit the hem ribbing the same as the cuffs, 4 inches of 1x1 ribbing. Like I said earlier, I really like the sewn tubular bind off. There's just one problem with it. Because it's sewn, you need to cut the yarn and make sure you have enough to bind off. At least 4 times the bind off edge. If I thought the collar was fiddly. When the bind off was finished, all that was left was weaving in the remaining ends and blocking. Also, I weighed it, 1.2 kilos in the end, or 2.7 pounds. Okay, so it has blocked, it has dried, it is time to do the reveal. But just before we do that, do you remember the yarn that I dyed at the start that went purple? I went on a side quest. So I know that yes, I should have done this in the first place, but I did some testing. I did quite a bit of testing. It's a lot of fun. So I had this flax dye lying around, and so I tried neutralizing the purple with that, and it turned into an actually like gray and green color that I really like. This one here. This is very like mossy and bog witchy, but my hair is dark and I do want to experiment with something a little bit more colorful because of how beige my background is. So I did try getting it to be navy. I tried blue food dye and it came out a sort of teal color, which was pretty cool. Then I picked up some blue dye. When I went to the shop to go and pick it out, looking at the actually blue yarn, I realized I don't want to wear a navy sweater. So we moved on from that. I picked up a Bordeaux dye and I added too much dye and it came out just purple again. Then I tried red food dye and I was like, oh, that's it. So I picked up this Tamarillo dye and that worked
perfectly. And so we ended up with our beautiful maroon Bordeaux colored yarn that I am really excited to work with. But then I also like had the Swift out and convinced myself that I also needed to start unraveling sweaters. So at first I started taking apart a cashmere vest, only to find that this is 100% machine knit. It's incredibly fine and kept breaking. So I stopped that. I will pick it up again. I'm going to unravel this. Oh. I also tried unraveling this sweater. And then it turns out that actually it's kind of felted and I don't think ideal for unraveling. And so finally, I started unraveling the $10 cashmere sweater that I picked up on my op shopping trip like a year ago. And that one worked. I didn't love the color, but we were close. It's a really good base to add the Bordeaux to. I was able to dye it to a color that I really like and I am definitely gonna use. $10 for all of this cashmere. Well, this side is the cashmere and this side is the hand spun yarn. For me, unraveling sweaters is definitely worth it. It's something I'm gonna keep doing. Can't stop me, don't try. All right, now it is time for the reveal. I want to do like a proper squeal, but it's just not happening. I love it. I'm sorry, I'm yelling into the microphone. Maybe I'll just pin it. I love it. I don't remember the last thing I said to you. Ever since I made this, it's been like high 30s and it has been too warm to film this part. Oh, I also filmed a different video in between finishing this and getting to this point. If you didn't see it, it's this one. I'm Thomas. Oh my gosh, blocking is actually magic. I know people say it and you hear it a lot, but like, wow. The drape on this is perfect now. Like it was sitting kind of like taut and I was a bit stressed about the sleeves. I'm so glad I knit them to the length that I did because that's exactly the fit that I wanted. I love how the turtleneck came out because I'm stepping on tape. I was worried it was gonna be a little bit tight around my neck, but this is perfect. This is like warm, but without being restrictive, and it's not like proper touching my neck around here, which is good because it is a slightly itchy fabric. I'm really happy with it. I'm gonna wear this absolutely heaps as soon as the weather cools down. It's only like 24 degrees right now, but I am sweating a little bit. I am quite warm. This is the coziest jumper I have owned. I'm just gonna take this off real quick because I'm too warm. Top down in the round, awesome, very happy with it. I love not seaming it together. It feels like such an organic way to make clothes. It just makes me really happy. I love knitting. I wish that I could wear this like right now, but I suppose the only thing to do now is wait for summer to be over. Is that gonna be a good transition? Ah!